Welcome to the Cameo Renee podcast. This is a place for those who refuse to sit back and wait for life to unfold. If you're ready to break free from the slow lane and seize every opportunity, you're in the right place. We're all about taking action, making shit happen, and creating the life you desire. Join me as we dive into powerful conversations and strategies that will help you grow your mindset and chase your dreams. Welcome to the Cameo Renee podcast. I am Cameo, and today I have Iryna Shcherbakov with me, and I'm so excited to share who she is, what she does with all of you. She was a frequent customer at Cozy Cafe, and she would tag us, and she would do these like really cute little posts, and I just became curious as to who she was. And when I looked, I was so pleasantly surprised because the content was so educational and filled with like positivity and like little things that you could take with you for yourself. So welcome, Iryna. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I just feel like you have so much to share knowledge-wise. Like you have pure, like, you know, it's not really an opinion, which I'm sure you share your opinion, but you're just so knowledgeable about your field. And that's what I really, really appreciate from your content. And I'm really excited for my listeners to get to hear you speak about it. So why don't you start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your previous business. Tell us about your professional background.
Okay, thank you for having me. This is also a very exciting opportunity for me to be here with you, to talk to you. And it's a very new format for me, as I already told. So let me tell you a bit about myself. My name is Iryna. I was born and spent most of my life in Ukraine. I moved to US in 2016 when I got married, and that was the point when my life turned upside down, let's say this way, because before that in Ukraine, I had a corporate legal career. I'm PhD in international law, and I'm actually coming from a very scientific family. So there was not quite a choice for me whether to go into science or not. So
Both your parents?
Both of my granddads are scientists. They're all in engineering. My dad is also PhD in engineering. And
Wow.
Like a lot of my family were in science at some point of their lives. But mostly two of my granddads, they're world-renowned scientists. And so there was a kind of expectation that we, not just me, but all like children in the family, let's say this way, would choose some kind of scientific career. So when I decided to go into legal career was not what all of the family did before me, because they're mostly in physics and in more engineering field. So I went into legal career, and I still was expected to do something scientific. And I felt I liked it. So I started some scientific experiments. It's humanitarian science, so it's more like research. It's writing research papers. So I started really early when I was at school, maybe in high school. And this went with me like through all of my career. And at some point, I decided to go into PhD and to have my PhD degree. But then I went to US, and here a lot of other challenges came to my view because my life changed a lot. From being like single professional, I became a mom and a wife, and I had a family to take care of. And I realized that I'm not good with the scheduling, with the effort I need to put into the work if I do continue a legal career. Also was moving, and was especially with law, you need to start your education, maybe not all over again, but you need to still devote a lot of time to re-education, to getting all the diplomas in your field in order to be in US, to work as a lawyer in US.
So you had to do it all over again?
Yes. And in order to go to the stage where I was when I left Ukraine, I realized that I'll need maybe 10 years. And I didn't want to like take those 10 years from the childhood of my kid to work now from like for 12 or 14 hours a day like I did when I was younger. And I started looking for some different opportunities. So looking for my passions that I can develop into a career, to look for my skills that I can somehow turn into some business or some other opportunities. So that's where I started looking for. And at some point, I just started like picking up the things I like to do and that can be somehow used and useful for others. So I realized that I really like giving advices. That's my thing. Even when I'm not asked, now I'm working to being asked before giving the advice. But still, I love the process of like coaching and mentoring and just giving advice, sharing my knowledge.
That's
I
awesome.
realized that I'm really into science and research. So I like when I can find the proofs of what I see and what I do, and to understand the basis, the facts behind the processes and everything. And also, I realized that I'm really into improving health and lifestyle because when you become a mom, and I think a lot of this may resonate to a lot of people, when you become a parent, let's say this way, you realize how much responsibility lies on you because you now need to make choices for this new human being.
This little
That,
human.
yes, that is like everything that is happening to this human being, this little human, it depends on you and the choices you made for them, because they obviously cannot do the choices in the beginning of their life. So when you realize the responsibility, you want to give the best to your kid. You want to create the best surrounded, the best people to surround your kid. You want best food for him or for her. You want everything the best. And that's when you start doing your own research. What is better? What is worse?
And that's what you're good at, right?
And when I started doing that,
research.
I realized that I'm good at it. So like I can tell one from another. I can do research. I try to understand the processes behind it, and also the personal shift, because before moving to US, I didn't actually cook at all. So I lived like the corporate life. I would wake up, go to work.
So let's go back to that. For corporate life, what did that look like for you? And then what made you take that leap? Like, was it like a long journey that you had to go through to get the confidence to end corporate life? Was it more like quick decision?
It was a combination decision, let's say this way, because at the moment when I moved to US, I was kind of burned out from the corporate life. So I felt like I needed a break. But everything around me changed so fast and so significantly that it helped a lot for me to take the leap. So when I came to US, we married with my husband, we had a kid, and I realized that there is almost no place in my today's life for that corporate style thing. And I didn't really miss it. So I felt like I liked myself at that stage, but when I moved to this new part of my life, new stage of my life, I didn't miss all the hectic running around, all the stress from working and everything, and realized I do not want to take this time from my family to give it back to corporate business.
So how soon from moving to the US did you have your first kid?
It was really quick. I moved here being pregnant, so
okay.
it was really fast.
Yeah, so then it was a quick decision.
Yes, it was. I'm always saying that I was lucky because a lot of circumstances around this helped me to make this decision quickly and easily, because those were like very happy circumstances of my life, and it was easy for me to go this way because I realized that if not for all these things that were happening with me at that moment of my life, I might not be ready for that decision, to make the decision quickly.
Wow, so true.
Yeah,
everything happens for a reason.
Yes, but it's still, I now realize that it still took me some courage and thought to realize that, okay, this stage of my life is finished. So let's move further. Let's see what I can do further here and how I can combine everything I want to do. How can I put everything together and find something new for me to bring me joy and some professional realization.
Change is not easy. So I commend you on that, because that's a huge, like, you became a mom, you left corporate world behind, you came to you came to the US, like you came to a whole new country.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot to take in. But you did it. And like, I'm so proud of you for that, because that's not easy.
Yeah, but that's I'm really lucky that it happened all at once, and all together was a lot of happy developments in my life. So it was so easy for me at that moment. Now I realize now that if I would think it through, all the part of it, it might be much harder. It might be more time consuming. But it was like
you went with the momentum.
Yes,
you were just like, okay, really we're doing it.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. Something that you said earlier really resonated with me when you said you like to take complex things that are maybe seem hard when you look from the outside. But then when you really get into it and you pick it apart, you like to dissect things and simplify them. And that was I really, really resonated with that, because something that I believe is complexity is the killer of success.
Yep.
So when you think something is hard, you tend to just leave it.
Back up. Yep.
So let's talk about that, where what are some examples of things that you do that for your clients?
There is a lot of misinformation around health and lifestyle, and a lot of people, there is now a stigma, let's say this way, that being healthy and leading a healthy lifestyle is very complicated, and it's very time consuming, it's expensive, and it's too much for a mom, for a parent, for everyone, just to be healthy and to lead healthy lifestyle. And that's the problem of our world, because all the information that are now coming, pouring on us from Instagram, from other social media, from everywhere, makes it really look very complicated. Like, we hear about that we need to count calories, that we need to exercise some decent amount of amount of time every day, that we need to combine the plates in some perfect order. We need to eat very specific foods and everything. And it indeed sounds complicated. So what I try to do with my clients is to show them that it's not complicated at all. You just need to go step by step. You don't need to change your lifestyle in one day. You need to see the goal, and you need to understand what you need to take yourself there, to that goal, who you want to be, how you want to feel, how you want to look, how you want to identify yourself in this future point. And you need to make the plan. And the plan is what, it might look very complicated at the beginning, because those 2 points where you are now and where you want to be might be very different people even. But if you put this plan on the paper and just divide it into small stages, you realize that by doing something small every day, you can easily move yourself towards your goal in a year, for example, or in 2 years. But it depends. Also, what is really important, that I believe in knowledge. I believe in understanding. I do not like when people just ask to give them one simple decision without exploring behind it. Like, tell me that I need to eat dairy or not to eat dairy, and that's it. And I'm saying, I cannot do it. We need to make research. Yeah. Why do you want to avoid dairy? Is there a reason for that? Do you have anything that is connected with dairy, some feelings or symptoms that you don't like? Or you just heard over Instagram that you don't need to eat dairy?
So so
everything should be explored. You need to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And when we're telling about this understanding and this mindfulness and meaningful decisions about your health, about your nutrition, about everything in your life. That's when it comes to that we indeed have some complicated processes in our body that we need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And now, luckily, we have a lot of information that helps us, for example, people like me who work with clients in nutrition and healthy lifestyle, to explain to people why it is important. And we have resources to simplify these processes. For example, everybody knows that added sugar is not good. Everybody knows that we have some kind of like insulin stuff going on in our bodies. But it is important for me to explain to my client or to my friend, whoever asks me this question, to explain what actually happens in our body and why we should be avoiding, for example, excess added sugars in our diet.
So can you walk us through that? So I'm
Like
very
for this
curious.
exactly process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why,
Okay.
like what that process looks like and why we should avoid it, or should we just avoid it mostly? Like, talk to me about that.
I would say healthy lifestyle is not about avoiding, but to understand what you're doing, what you're eating, and what's happening in your body after it. So if you take this process, if you take this exact like thing about insulin and glucose, so every food that we eat is metabolized into glucose in our bloodstream. Glucose is the primary source of energy. Like that's the fuel that our body uses to make energy for us. But though every food is metabolized into glucose in our blood, it is made differently. So there are different types of foods that we eat. Some of them, like for example, proteins or whole grains, they're metabolized slowly. So the glucose is like
Is different proteins metabolized different, or is it more?
proteins more or less? Proteins are more or less similar. The most difference lies in carbohydrates, like the things that we eat most.
Mm-hmm.
So the sugar is actually the easiest thing to produce glucose from. So when we, for example, drink a very like coffee with a lot of syrup, with whipped cream on top and a lot of sugar,
Mm-hmm.
we drink it fast and the glucose in our blood spikes really fast. The thing with glucose is that in order to normalize the glucose levels in our blood, our body has special mechanisms of providing insulin. So insulin is that's a small protein that takes the glucose molecule and brings it to all the cells in our body. So that's let's imagine it's like a taxi that like takes the glucose molecule and transports it to our body. The thing is that when there's too much glucose all the time, the insulin production starts to fall through a little bit. So like our body is stressed because it cannot finish the process of delivering the glucose molecule to the cell, and it needs to make new insulin to take new molecules of glucose. So if we, for example, if we drink coffee and then we eat a bagel in like half an hour, and then we eat a snack in half an hour, this process is broken and it started all over again. Also, when we have too much glucose and too much of insulin like circulating like this, our cells, they lose the ability to open like the gates and to allow the glucose molecule to go inside the cell. So what happens is that those gates of the cell that should open when insulin comes with the glucose molecule on top, they should open and let the glucose into the cell. And that's in the cell we have the energy production. So when we have too much glucose circulating in our bloodstream and too much insulin, those gates start like breaking up. And that's what we call insulin resistance. So we have
Stop
too
it
much
right now. Like, that is so cool.
Yeah. So like the problem is that when this happening, the glucose is still circulating in our blood.
Okay.
And it cannot get into the cells of our body. So that's what happening with pre-diabetic conditions, right? When people seem not to eat much, but they cannot lose weight.
I feel like everybody throws around that word like, I'm insulin resistant, like insulin resistant. But it, like, you don't need a medical like issue to be insulin resistant if you're just eating too much sugar. Am I right? Is that what you're saying? Like you could
I'm
cause it
saying
yourself.
I'm saying that this condition is absolutely preventable by eating healthier, by
That's
understanding
so
that
interesting.
you need to control the amounts of glucose spiking in your blood. In order to control this, you need to understand what you're eating and what would spike your glucose more or what would spike your glucose less. For example, there is a huge difference between instant oatmeal or steel cut oatmeal, right? So if you take this one is oatmeal and this one is oatmeal, but this one was made from processed oats. They're processed so much that they become like almost like a sugar.
Oh my gosh.
Because they're metabolized so quickly. The glucose from them spike the blood so quickly. Like it's comparable to a glass of juice, for example. And when you take steel cut oats, for example, with almond milk and add some good stuff to it, like nuts or seeds, you can do a meal that would release glucose like slowly. There would be no spikes in glucose, no spikes in insulin, and there would be no drops as well. The problem is also when there is a spike of glucose, a spike of insulin, there would be also a drop. When there is a drop of glucose, our body is designed the way that when there is a drop of glucose, there is a sign that we're in hunger. We need to eat something, that something is missing for us. So that's when we want to eat more. So that's the problem, is when we eat healthier, when we eat whole foods that release glucose slowly, we do not have those cravings. So we can easily have a good breakfast and then can easily last till lunch without any snack. And then we can easily last till dinner without wanting to have a snack. The problem is when we have sweets all the time, we will have those spikes all the time. We would crave for more and more and more. So this would happen all the time. We would eat more. There was also even a scientific research about breakfast, whether it's better to have savory breakfast or sweet breakfast. And it was shown that people who ate sweet breakfast were tend to eat more food throughout the day than those who ate savory breakfast, because this first food delivery to our body in the morning, it takes the decision for the whole day to go. So if we have this high glucose in the morning, then we would have the crash of glucose and we would have those roller coasters.
So breakfast is literally the most important meal of the day.
Yes, literally. There are some discussions, and also that's where it comes from. The knowledge is so important, because when you know this, you would understand that freshly squeezed juices is also not a healthy stuff, even though it's believed to have like so many nutrients and vitamins. It's liquid sugar, actually. Wow. So when you drink like 5 oranges in one glass for like 5 minutes, in 5 minutes, you will have like a huge load of sugar in your body.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And that also, like, smoothies are a little bit better, but still, if they're made mainly from sweet fruits, you would have the same thing.
So what would be like a healthy smoothie?
A healthy smoothie would be made of vegetables.
Okay.
Like you would take celery and spinach and maybe half of orange and add some greens like parsley or kale and maybe some almond milk. But there's a question, why do you need the smoothie? Like that's what you need to ask why. Because there is no reason for you to have those smoothies. You can eat those vegetables. Like the best form of eating vegetables is just to eat a vegetable. Like the best way to eat a fruit, just to eat an apple.
Stop making it complicated, just eat the food.
Exactly. That's when we come back to the idea of complicating things or simplifying. The best way to eat an apple is just to eat an apple. There's now a lot of stuff being sold, like green powders, some kind of other powders that you need to mix with water, or you like smoothie mixes and all this stuff. Why? Yeah. Like you can just take whole fruits and whole veggies and just eat them.
So what is a typical breakfast like for you or your kids, let's say?
It differs. Usually I try to eat some berries with some form of yogurt, some maybe a little bit of granola. I love matcha instead of coffee. And that would be my standard breakfast. Sometimes I also like doing toasts, like avocado toast with salmon. It's nice, it's delicious. Sometimes I add some salad on the side, but that's like two of my most standard breakfast. Was the kids still it's a little bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but luckily
pickier.
we have a rule at our house that one breakfast for all. So usually my daughter eats the same thing as we eat. Sometimes I try to maybe to add something to it if she wants something. For example, if she wants something sweet after, I would maybe instead of English muffin for me, I would give her a waffle.
Yeah.
But I always try to choose the best possible option. So for example, when I'm choosing waffles, I would choose whole wheat waffle because it's better. Because it metabolizes
I was going to ask
slowly.
you that.
It metabolizes
the bread.
slowly.
Okay, so
the bread, the same thing with the bread. You need to when you're choosing your food, you need to go as closer to the original state of the product as possible. So when you're choosing the bread, choose the one that has seeds in it, that has whole wheat or whole grains in it, that is for example, from sprouted grains. I would stay away, for example, from refined bread, from white bread, but also there is a rule that is very important, is that we need to, in order to be healthy, we need to do 80% of healthy stuff. And we have 20% for everything else.
80-20 rule. I love it.
So I believe that it is important to take the stress away from the process. Because the dieting culture, when you need to avoid something or where something is strictly restricted, doesn't do well. It causes a lot of stress, and it usually doesn't have any significant result, like health-wise. So I believe that it's very important to take away the stress and to tell a person that we can eat everything.
Okay.
Everything can be a remedy. Everything can be a poison. The question is about the dosage. So if we want to have a burger with friends when we're going out, or a hot dog or pizza, whatever, just eat it. But when you come back home, make sure that what you cook and what you have in your fridge is mostly good stuff.
Okay.
So I wouldn't over focus on the question of healthy eating, but I would try to make mindful decision and meaningful decisions. Because also it's important to remember that food has significant impact on our health. And that's the only thing, not the only thing, but it's a very large sphere of our life and our health that we can control, actually. We make the choices. It's not something that happens irrespective of our will, right? That's what we decide we do. That's what we decide we eat. That's what we decide for our kids.
It's discipline, yeah.
Yes.
Too. I feel like with anything, you just have to keep going and be disciplined enough in yourself to, okay, I'm going to have the pizza, but then be able to come back and say, okay, I had my treat and now we're going to get back on track.
Oh, that's debatable.
Okay.
Because whenever you try to transform your perspective on your food the way as, for example, I ate a pizza, so I will have a workout later today, or this is my treat, the pizza is my treat, or the cake is my treat. You're starting giving your food more meaning that it actually should have.
Okay.
So I would just take this away. I'm all for building healthier routines, because if you get used to eating half of your vegetables at every meal, and would start controlling that you have at least a third of your plate covered with vegetables every time, you don't need to think of pizza as a treat. You just can have it whenever you want it, and that's it. And there's a big chance that once you start eating healthier, you wouldn't want the pizza.
You don't want it, yeah.
Because once you start eating cleaner, once you start eating less sugar and less salt, our taste buds, they start changing.
Oh.
And we feel the tastes very differently than we felt them before. And you would never, like, if you know someone who drank coffee with sugar and then decided to go sugarless, and then ask them to try the sugar they drank before, they couldn't.
They don't like
no,
it.
Because
Oh.
once you start feeling the taste of the coffee itself, you don't want the sugar in there. That's it.
That's so interesting.
And there's a lot of stuff that's happening. And I also mentioned it, like I saw it with myself, because I remember when I was going back in summer to Ukraine, I was asking my parents to buy me a piece of bread that is sold only there, a piece of cold cuts like mortadella and mayonnaise. And once I came to Kiev, after I started eating healthier here, and I asked like for the same combination to be bought for my arrival, and I took a bite and it just didn't feel good.
Yeah.
Because that's it.
Like, why
Once you go there, like you won't come back to pizzas and other pastries.
Wow. That's amazing. It gives me hope because when you're starting, I mean, when you're starting and you make yourself a salad and you're really not used to eating salad, you're like,
that's actually another important thing to tell here is that first thing, you don't need to change everything at once.
I love that, because I feel like there's so much pressure.
Yeah, you don't like, and you don't need this pressure, because this pressure spoils everything. Because you don't need to feel pressured. You just one day at a time. One day you're adding like a bit of asparagus to your food. The other day you're trying another bread. The next day you're trying different oats for your oatmeal in the morning. So just like small substitutions, small adjustments, and at some point you would come to this 80% of good stuff, and you'll feel better.
How do you feel about exercise? So
yeah,
I know that there's like a lot of like people. And I do agree, like 80% of it is your diet. And then, it's always good to move your body. So
it's very important.
Yeah. What would you say, how often, what's too little, what's too much? Is there too much?
There is too much.
Okay.
There is too much. And now when I see some people who put all their attention and put all their effort just on sport, and they wake up at 5 a.m. every day to go to a CrossFit training, I don't like it. Like that, I think that's exhausting, and when you do not enjoy it, that wouldn't have the result you want. So with the sport, it's very important to move. It's very important to do your exercises, but it's also very important to find the exercises you enjoy. Because there is no one-fits-all recipe here. And you need to find the thing you like, the kind of activity you like. And it might be not a sport at all. It might be hiking. It might be walking. It might be dancing. It might be jogging in the morning. It might be something else.
Are you familiar with like mobility training?
Mobility training is a really nice thing to do.
I love that.
So the thing is that you need to move your body. That's the point.
Yeah.
How you would do it, that's your choice. But I do believe that it's important to take your steps, that it's important to move, it's important to do something. But you need to find your sport. For me, I don't like running, for example. I cannot run. Like, I don't enjoy it. But I like Pilates, for example. So that's my way of sports. Also, with the frequency, it also depends on you. For me, I believe that it's better to do a little every day than to do it a lot once a week or twice a week.
Okay.
Because our body works in routines. Our brain tends to create a routine, and it's much easier to keep the routine than to do it like one day you do one thing, then another day you do the other thing. So keeping routines is very important, and it's easier. So for me, for example, it's easier for me to do every day like 20-25 minutes of some way of sport, of mobility training, or Pilates or yoga or something else, but every day. Some people prefer to do it like twice a week. It's your choice.
I like how everything you say, you leave it up to the person to say, like, whatever
Absolutely.
you like.
Yeah, and that's the only way it could be, because everything is very personalized. That's what we sometimes forget about. I think that we are looking for universal rules, for universal advices, for something that would fit all and work for everyone. There is nothing that can work absolutely for everyone. And that's what also I like. That's the part of the research I make, because when I meet a new client, the biggest part of my job is our first session, coaching session, when I try to make a research about everything that's happening around health and body and nutrition. And when we make this initial research, that's where I can see where I can find something where I can help, those small adjustments that can be made.
Do you find, like, a lot of the times it's habits that we have created or grabbed onto when we were in our childhood that like we bring into our adulthood? Or
a lot. We sometimes even grab the habits of our parents into our lives. Because if you would look into the cooking routines, for example, we sometimes cook the same things all over again. And those recipes might be coming from our moms and our grandmas. Sometimes there are precious recipes and family traditions. I don't mind that. But sometimes there are routines that were okay like 50 years ago, but now there should be changed.
Yeah.
And they're still brought into the life. And I see a lot of resistance sometimes with the cooking routines. Like, people do not want to change their view to how they cook, to what they cook. And they do not want to adopt new recipes because they say, oh, it's too complicated. I don't want to learn anything new. I don't want to look at, like, there is so many information around. I have my recipe. I will do it this way. And that's it. And it's really hard to change the perspective of a person and to ask or to create some circumstances, some conditions where the person would change something in their routine. And here comes, I have like the tip I do recommend to have, like something that might be actually recommended to everyone, is trying to eat 30 plants per week. Like, we do not, variety in foods is very important for us, for our body.
13 or 30?
30, 30.
30.
Yes.
Wow.
It's not that hard as it might sound, but it's not that easy as well.
Okay.
So that's how we. There are two purposes in that. Like, first is variety, because it's very important, because we get different macronutrients from different foods. And in order not to have any deficits in nutrients in our body, we need to eat a variety of foods, not the pills like in the handfuls,
the powders that they
and the powders, but the real foods.
Okay.
And the other reason is that when you focus on eating many plants, you would start trying new things. You would come to supermarket, to grocery store, and you would look for something else, not something that you buy every time. Because also, when we go to grocery store, we have those habits and routines again.
Yeah.
Because we buy tomatoes, cucumbers, like the same standards.
I have even the same aisles that I go down.
Exactly.
Now that you say something.
Yeah. But when you need to eat 30 plants per week, you would start looking around. You would start like, here I have tomatoes and cucumbers. What else I have? Maybe I have parsley, or maybe I have beets. Maybe I have different type of rice, or maybe I would buy different grain this time. So that's the thing, how you can eat more variety of foods and how you can experiment with foods. And when you have something new in your fridge, of course, it may like stay in fridge forever and then like move like some of the products to the trash can. But sometimes it would like make some spark of creativity in you to look for a recipe with this product and to make something new, something you didn't cook ever before.
How often do you go grocery shopping? Because I know for me, when I am buying all of these like fresh ingredients, it does make it, I make it to the grocery store way more often.
Yes. I'm not very nicely organized person when it comes to grocery shopping. That's my like growth done, maybe like a New Year's resolution for this year, because I'm not very organized, and I don't have a strict meal planning process for the week.
I think that's
So
cool though, because I feel like it puts so much pressure on people when you say, "Oh, do you meal prep?" Like,
I'm actually big fan of the meal prep, but the meal planning process is not my
strong
strengths
suit.
for now. Yes, because I tried a few times, and it actually does save a lot of time, and
Mm-hmm.
it reduces the waste. So it's a cool thing to do. So that's why I think that I need to work on myself a little bit in
Okay.
this sphere. But for me, I just do not want. Sometimes when I do the plan for the week, and then no, I don't want this today, and that's
Yeah.
it. So I need to change it somehow, and then it gives me more stress than it was before. So that's why I sometimes just go to the grocery store and just when I come there, I see what I like on the
Like
shelves,
what you
and
want
then
to eat
decide
that.
what I would cook with that.
Yeah.
So usually, I go grocery shopping maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
But I also
Yeah.
have I also do some deliveries. Like sometimes I might do a delivery in the beginning of the week with
Like a
some like
HelloFresh.
I do imperfect foods. I
Oh,
like the
okay.
idea and the
I've tried
concept
them.
that they're
Mm-hmm.
like saving the products that were like refused by the grocery
Cool.
stores, and I like the idea. Um, but usually, so it's like 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah. I it's hard for me to get to the grocery store that often. So delivery options would probably I have to work on that. I do.
Yeah,
I
and
do.
it's very time consuming indeed, and that's why I say that it's very important to work on the planning as well. But the meal prep thing is very nice thing, but from a little bit other perspective, because in order to eat healthier, you
Mm-hmm.
always need to have something at hand that you can eat quickly. So when you feel hungry, if you
Yeah.
do have a healthy, if you do have an apple in your purse, it's far less likely that you would go and buy yourself some like a bag of
Yeah,
chips.
oh my gosh, I
So
need to work on that because I feel like when I'm hungry, if I let myself get to that space, I will grab anything and just eat it and not
yeah,
like really think
and
about.
if you have a healthy sandwich in your fridge for that thing,
I would grab
you
that.
would grab that,
Yeah.
yes. Or if you have like ingredients for a quick and easy salad as well. And also, I don't think I told mentioned it before that your food needs to be tasty. Like you
Mm.
need to enjoy your food. Like it doesn't need to be like steamed broccoli for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. It
Yeah.
needs to be healthy, but it needs to be delicious. You need to enjoy it.
I think that's a big part of why people are steered away from, the greens and the vegetables, fruits. But again, like you said earlier, your taste buds actually change, which I find
Yep,
so cool because you may not enjoy it so much in the beginning, but eventually when you are consuming these things, you'll change and maybe,
absolutely.
spinach won't taste so bad
Yeah,
or,
but there are so many ways to cook. Almost all products have so much versatility in them,
Mm,
especially vegetables and grains. There is so much into it, but you need to be creative, and you need to go a bit away from the standards from your habits, from your routines that have established that you brought to yourself from childhood or from some other stages in your life.
do you think there's a huge difference in organic and non-organic?
Oh, that's a debatable question, but I would say that there are some stuff that is better to buy organic. For example, dairy, um, maybe poultry, eggs. There is the concept of dirty dozen that is changes year by year of like dozen of products that has have to be bought organic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm not like from one side of this situation, I would say that if you can afford it, it's you wouldn't lose from buying organic. So like
Okay.
generally organic foods are better than non-organic, but it's not usually about health perspective. It's sometimes more about environmental perspective or about um, the way they treat their workers on the
Mm.
farms and stuff like that.
So it's not really
Also,
like
yeah.
There's
It's
not like a huge enough difference to.
it's in some products there is. For example, when we're talking about dairy, but it's not more about like organic or non-organic, but it's more about, for example, if they use antibiotics or they don't use. It's about like the quality of like the processes that they use on the farms. And here it's a very complicated question. You need to make your research before buying something. Like if you want to deep dive, like have a deep dive into this question, you need to make research about every farm you're actually buying from. But there are some general rules, but it's too much. That's complicated. Like we're not ready for that in our everyday life. So I would say that some products I would recommend buying organic, but I wouldn't like go crazy around this concept because I'm not that sure that the products that have this organic label on them, that they are always strictly adhering to the organic protocols.
And also like standards are pretty low, I hear.
Like it's different. So there are some things, for example, organic products are not allowed to, in organic products, you're not allowed to use artificial flavors, but you're allowed to use natural flavorings, and nobody knows what it is. Like there is no regulation that says that in order to be natural flavors, like you can add lemon juice to it or like some natural sugar. There is no such thing. It's just something that is naturally derived from something. So
interesting.
Like
there's
what it is.
It's not really it's not regulated.
It's not regulated.
It's just, like,
so it's
figure
just
it out.
Yeah. So it's just natural flavorings. So they're like some point they're natural. You don't know if they're good or bad for you. Like you cannot tell.
That's crazy.
So sometimes if you trust the producer, if you trust the manufacturer, like you can go with it. But for me, that's a big question. Like I try to whenever I can, I try to avoid things with natural flavorings because I don't know what it is. But because if it's just something simple like lemon juice or vanilla or I don't know, something else or cinnamon, why don't you just put the name? And that's why I always say that when you check the ingredients, look for like they need to be simple. You need to understand what's inside and you need to know those words.
I wanted to ask you before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask about, because it's so important in anything that you're doing in life to have, clarity. ADHD is thrown around. That word is thrown around so often now. And I hear a lot about, how it's linked to what we're consuming and, how they're making our food. And how do you feel about, are there things that you did research on or that you tell your clients to not consume or give to their children to avoid, what is that word? Like brain fog or ADHD?
Okay. So it's a very complicated question, but I'll try to answer as simple as possible.
Okay.
Each body is different. Each body needs different stuff to thrive. And each body needs different routines to feel best. A lot of this is indeed connected with food, but on a level of micronutrients and macronutrients. What we have, for example, with kids, the problem with kids is that as they're usually picky eaters and they eat just some like different parts of foods, they try to avoid some vegetables or something else. So we cannot deliver all the micronutrients they need with their food. And sometimes that's the reason why sometimes it makes sense supplementing kids with some kind of vitamins. When we talk about foods causing brain fog or let's say affecting the condition a child might have, that's also a sphere of great research. That's up to doctors and parents to sit together to analyze what's going on, to try to make the predictions and to understand what's going on. There is For regular kid, there is no necessity to eliminate any foods from their diet unless it's excessive added sugars or excessive fats. So the diet of a kid as well as of a grown-up should be balanced. We should have all nutrients on our plate. If they should be balanced, we need to have enough of fiber, and we need to give our kids enough of fiber. They need to have whole grains. They need to eat complex carbs in form of whole grains as well. They need to have healthy fats. That's what we need to give our kids. When we're talking about the conditions, there is some science behind eliminating some foods from the diet of kids with certain conditions. I know that there is like some questions about gluten for kids with autism, but it's very personificated. So like there are no general rules like that. So I would not I usually go the other way around. I always ask parents not to take anything from the diet of their kids away before they have absolute reason to do that. For example, there is a lot of fuss around gluten right now. Everybody's eliminating gluten. Everybody telling about they have gluten sensitivity or something else. Unless you have a celiac disease or confirmed gluten intolerance, you do not need to eliminate gluten from your diet, because eliminating gluten from your diet usually leads to buying alternative breads that have a lot of fillers in them, a lot of other stuff that is not good for you. So you might be thinking that you're doing good for you by eliminating gluten, but you would consume a lot of worse stuff in form of this alternative bun, gluten-free bun.
So you think you're like eating good, and then
again, like
it's the same thing with the hair industry. For like my salon, you know, people, we say the same thing, like the ammonia free. Yeah, it's ammonia free, but something else is replacing that chemical to do the same thing as that chemical does. But if you're allergic to it, it makes sense to not use ammonia. Like, so it's the same concept.
Otherwise, why would you do it, right?
Yeah. So, you know.
So that's we're coming back to the situation of make it simple. Just eat a regular piece of bread.
Do you make bread at home?
No. I tried once or twice. It's too much for me. That's not my thing.
I wanted to try it just like out of like curiosity. My wife saw all the things in the Amazon cart and like nixed it. She was like, absolutely not. This is way too many things, way too much money to make bread. Yeah. One day though, I'm going to.
Yeah, maybe one day I will. Maybe sourdough.
That's what I was gonna do. Yeah. The sourdough. Same. We should try it. We should do it together.
Yeah, maybe masterclass.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want you to tell people how they can find you, where they can find you, and do you have a website?
I don't have a website yet.
Okay.
I'm now my basic platform for now is Instagram.
Okay.
So I have my Instagram page, and I work through it. Like I share information on it, and I also communicate with my clients and my potential clients through Instagram. So that's my basic.
Okay, so they can send you like a message on there, and then that's how they can communicate.
I also am on Facebook. I'm not that active on Facebook as I am on Instagram. And of course, I do have an email and all this stuff.
Okay, so give them your Instagram name and your email. How about?
Yeah,
and then
it's Iryna Shcherbakov on Instagram, and email is iryna.shcherbakov@gmail.com, and maybe we could put those in the description.
Yeah,
because
we'll put that
the spelling of my family name
because nobody's going to know how to spell that.
A bit of complicated.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and I look forward to seeing all of your wonderful things on Instagram and all your pictures and reels and videos.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap for today, and we will catch you next time on the Cameo Renee podcast. Please give Iryna a follow. Her Instagram is so educational, and it just honestly gives me so much inspiration to continue my health journey. Thank you guys for coming on today. I'll see you next time. Have a good day, guys. Thanks for being here with me today. It's always appreciated if you would like, share, or drop a comment about what you think. And of course, remember to do what the fuck you want because you deserve it. See you next time. As always, sending love and positive vibes.